What's going on, everybody? Victor here with a brand new video, and today I want to talk about an up and rising star from the country of Australia who I really want to talk about because he has a lot of potential, has a lot of upside to be a very bright star in the UFC welterweight division. As of right now, there aren't that many fighters that really represent the country of Australia, and ever since the pandemic, the UFC hasn't been able to go to Australia in a very long time. Before the pandemic, the UFC was making round trips to Australia, talking about cities such as Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, etc. But ever since then, the UFC hasn't been back. The last huge event that they had in Australia was UFC Melbourne. It was a pay per view between the interim champion Israel Adesanya versus against the current UFC middleweight champion at that time, Robert Whittaker. And boy, oh boy, was it a huge event. It was the largest UFC event in the history of the promotion, and it definitely delivered. But like I said, there aren't that many fighters that represent the country of Australia. I say there's probably more than 10, probably 10 to 15 fighters who fight out of Australia. I'm talking about the likes of Alexander Volkanovski, Robert Whittaker, Jamie Mullarkey, Casey O'Neill, etc. There's a great amount of talent from the country, and there's going to be even more in the future once UFC hits the country nationwide, if it hasn't already. But like I said, there is an up-and-coming rising star right now, and he is going to be fighting this Saturday in Singapore during the pay-per-view when it comes to Jerry Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira. He's going to be on that main card. I'm talking about Jack Della Maddalena. He is 25 years of age. He fights in the welterweight division. He's 5'9", 73-inch reach. The guy is a complete specimen. He fights out of Perth, Australia, out of scrappy MMA, and he's, like I said, he's the complete package. He lost his first two MMA fights, but ever since then, he's racked off 11 straight wins, 2 straight wins in the UFC. He's currently undefeated in the promotion, and he comes out of Dana White's Contender Series. He is an alumni of that show, and he had an amazing experience, an amazing fight overall, where he was able to showcase a lot of his skills and show what he's really capable of inside of that UFC octagon. As a result, he impressed Dana White to the point of giving him a contract, and ever since he's been doing great in the UFC. He's only had one fight, but he's on a 2-fight win streak, one with Dana White's Contender Series, another one in the actual UFC. He fought Ang Lusa in Dana White's Contender Series, who is a dangerous fighter in the UFC right now, but at that time was considered one of the brightest prospects in all of Europe, fighting out of Switzerland, also fighting out of Stanford MMA. So you know that he had a lot of upside to him. He had a lot of experience as well, being able to train with the best of the best in that gym down in South Florida. And Jack Maddalena, like I said, when we talk about Australia, it's not the deepest rooted MMA country in the whole entire world, so you're not going to get the best training partners out there, and the majority of the gyms over in Australia are pretty darn small, so they don't have the mega gyms like they do over in America. So we're talking about a bright prospect that's coming from a mega gym versus a bright prospect that's coming from a small gym on the other side of the planet in Australia, and Jack Della Maddalena was able to showcase his prowess, and when I mean that, I'm talking about his striking skills and his skills on the ground as well. When he's on the ground, he can be able to get back on his feet really fast, so there isn't no danger whatsoever when he gets down to the ground and his opponent is on top of him because he's really strong. You can be able to see that with his physique and his boxing and his kickboxing in general. He picks his shots, he has a really nice jab, and he can be able to switch stances at will, and he's very fluent when it comes to switching the stances as well, which means that his footwork is amazing. And if there's one thing about fighting, you need to have good footwork. You'll be able to dictate the movement that goes on inside the octagon with really good footwork, and he has really good footwork. His body movement is really on another level as well, and he showcases that in his fight. His last fight against Peter Rodriguez, which is in his UFC debut, it was on an undercard, but like I said, he was able to sorry guys. He was able to showcase his skills during that fight as well. Basically by dodging and weaving and be able to pump his jab, and his jab was the main weapon during that fight. Sorry guys. His jab was the main weapon during that during that fight. and he was able to showcase, and he kept on pumping out, pumping it out, pumping it out, and it kept on hitting the mark. It kept on hitting his opponent straight to the nose, where his nose ended up getting bloody as a result pretty fast in the first round. And he was able to follow up those jabs with the right hand cross. So the 1-2 kept on going down the pipe. And he was able to get some nice body shots in there as well. And as a result, he was able to hit some combinations and hit some really huge, really huge shots towards the end of that first round, and which caused the end of the fight. So even though Della Maddalena hasn't had that much experience, apparently his fight before his UFC debut, his longest fight was about 2 minutes. So there's something that tells you that he's not the one to be messed with. He's not the one that goes in there and wanting to play games. During his fight with Pete Rodriguez, he declined to do the whole fighter touch. You know, some fighters decide to touch gloves before they engage in combat, basically as a sign of sportsmanship. Jack Della Maddalena didn't want to do any of that whatsoever. He just wants to get down to the business. He wants to fight. He wants to win, get out of there unscathed, and get down to the next one. And I believe that this Saturday, he's definitely going to be able to prove himself yet again. This time he's going to be on the main card. And he's definitely going to show that footwork, to being able to switch the stance from southpaw to orthodox at will fluently. He'll definitely be able to use his body movement to the best of his ability, and he's going to showcase more of his boxing. And if there's one thing that really stands out about him, it's always going to be the boxing for me, just because he's so fluent. And his team over at Scrappy MMA in Perth, Australia, have really done a good job with him when it comes to the striking. And it's not just the striking as well, but it's also the body movement that complements the striking, because obviously when you're throwing combinations in there, you're moving your body the whole entire time. You're bringing your fist back into the guard. That way you'll be able to defend yourself, or if your opponent decides to come back and hit you with a counter shot. And when he strikes, he always evades, and he brings his head, snaps it back to be able to recompose himself and reset, and throw the jab out there again to be able to set up his next combination. And he does it really, not just really well, but he's very calm and composed in the octagon. You can see that he doesn't really have any jitters, and he's in there for sport. He's in there for fun. So it's just another day in the office for him. It's basically another day in the training room, but against another individual from another country, from the other side of the world, fighting in a different country. So he's no stranger when it comes to fighting in a different country, fighting in a different venue, fighting in front of people that he's never met before in his whole entire life, fighting in front of fans who may not even speak the same language as him. He's all game. And the only thing that he has on his mind is winning, which is why I believe that he is a bright star in the UFC for the country of Australia. And I think he's going to be the biggest thing since Robert Whittaker, since Alexander Volkanovski. And I think he's going to make a big name for himself as long as he keeps himself active. And he did fight during the pandemic in Heavyweights Contender Series last season, which is what got him the contract, and I believe he's going to continue to stay busy as well. The only problem I have is that since he does fight and train out of Australia, Australia does have a very strict rule set when it comes to COVID-19. If one person gets the COVID, the whole entire country shuts down. Every single gym shuts down, which means that he won't be able to train, he won't be able to get rounds in, he won't be able to stay in shape the right way. Because there's a difference between being in regular shape and being in a fighter shape, and being in fighter shape is a whole lot harder than being in regular shape, and it shows when you get inside of the octagon. So hopefully he'll be able to continue to train as much as he is right now in his home country of Australia, be able to get as many fights in as possible before 2022 ends, and see where he ends up in the rankings. I believe by the end of this year, he has a great possibility of possibly landing in that top 15, and by the end of 2023, I believe he'll be in the top 5 of the UFC welterweight rankings, because of how wide open the UFC welterweight division is right now, especially up in the top with Kamaru Usman, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, the rest of the whole 9 up in that top 5, top 10. So Jack Della Maddalena, you guys should definitely remember the name. The guy is the real deal. He's extremely tough. It's going to be hard to get him out of there, whether it's via submission or knockout, but definitely check him out. From Australia, only 25 years of age. He's still really young. Isn't even in the prime of his career yet, and he still has a lot to show the world, especially when it comes to the case of showing them who he really is and his name recognition, his name value, and I believe the whole world is definitely going to know who he is by mid 2023. He still has a couple more fights that he needs to get in there against well-known opponents who have a lot of name value and also a number next to their name in order to be known worldwide. But he's definitely someone to watch out for. I think he's a very exciting fighter. If you guys like someone who goes in there, tries to get a TK as fast as possible, the right way, then Jack Della Maddalena is definitely your guy to watch out for, and he's definitely going to be a fan favorite in the near future. Appreciate you guys for watching this video. What do you guys think about Jack Della Maddalena? And definitely watch this fight this coming Saturday in UFC Singapore. Like I said, it's going to be pay-per-view. It's going to be on the main card, so there's definitely going to be a lot of eyes watching him. He's going to be the opening fight on that main card. Hope you guys watch it. Hope you guys have fun. Stay safe. Stay blessed. Appreciate you guys for watching the video. Later.